you've gone from disaster response to disaster preparedness. That seems like a pretty critical leap. So can you talk about what's involved with that?
Yeah, the biggest problem we run into after a disaster is a lack of capacity, the lack of the knowledge that you are allowed in your community to do something. Mm-hmm. And we found that the easiest way to get more people to act at a time that matters,
right.
So that can be putting someone who lives next door who's a senior citizen in your minivan and evacuating them as well.
Right.
We found that getting that information and the tools to organize that into a community before a disaster is so much more effective. Mm-hmm. So with a focus on preparedness, we can tell people common sense things. Get an extra can of peanut butter and a crate of beans, and that's your emergency kit. It doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be labeled, it's just common sense information where it needs to be at the right time.
Yeah. I think we're all learning that we need to have those drills and yeah, those resources at our disposal. When you started this, you were both students doing graduate work. Is Recovers like a full-time gig now? Are you going to return to your studying, or?
So I'm working on my PhD at MIT. I'll be done soon. It's science is my friend. That's not like a clap line. It's just a lot of work.
We're impressed.
So science is my first passion, but I think that the more science we can bring to bear on problems that affect people so personally, like natural disasters, specifically because I study something so similar,
yeah.
The more we can bring to bear, the better for everyone.
Right.
And so I'm working on bringing, climate science and atmospheric understanding into community tools that regular people can just look at and be more prepared with without needing to take a class or
right.
A webinar or something. These things should be simple and accessible so that we can be safer and help our neighbors.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that surprises you about how communities use the platform and what it's been able to accomplish? I mean, what's been?
I personally am always surprised by how people use our platform. It's often not in the way we intended it to be used, which does two things. Tells us we've done something wrong and we need to fix it. Mm-hmm. And it also shows us a better way to do it. Mm-hmm. So we call it stress testing. And it started last April with our very first version of the software. We flew into a tornado recovery in Texas and handed them the software and said, go. And then it was terrifying. Stress applies to you in that situation. Right. You're watching a community try and use something that's untested, but the best practices we see people create on the ground are what get translated and then spread into other communities.
And the point is, we don't know the answers for your community. If an earthquake or a hurricane hit you right now, we don't know what your closest shelter is or right. where the closest medical shelter is or where the pets go, but you do. So if we can provide you the best technology to answer those questions on your own, everyone wins. And then we don't have to be on the ground. That way we can scale far faster across the country. And so we're just trying to build, give technology to people so they can be the experts, because
right.
we certainly are not.
Right.